thank you, Maddie. And as Madison introduced me, I'm Bud Shaw. I'm a solution architect with GSI. Just a little bit about me. I've been working with almost exclusively with JD Edwards since 2000. So I'm coming up on 23 years with JD Edwards experience. So, and I'm always in a solution architect, solution consultant role with JD Edwards. So I kind of go across the board with all of the modules and functionality and applications. And as such, I've kind of adopted and kind of gotten into all of the tools and features that are available with JD Edwards. So I'm kind of a natural to present kind of things. So what I thought I would do for this month's webinar was kind of start netting us out with kind of a summarization of the big enhancements in release 23 from release 22. Release 22, this is kind of the screenshot from release 22 features. You know, it had a lot of enhancements for Orchestrator, but also for the user interface. And it had quite a few functional enhancements, all the JET apps, enhancements in procurement and finance and other areas. So, but particularly in the Orchestrator area and other tools features, release 22 did a lot. It introduced logic extensions. It started the workflow modeler in the Orchestrator, working with media objects, providing input and output, to be able to use files for input and outputs to orchestration, and enriched media objects within JD Edwards, and then being able to put orchestrations on E1 pages and E1 forms, and other enhancements. Also from a kind of a non-tools, but a system admin, you know, zero downtime deployment, and the JDE update manager was introduced, and in release 23, more happened in that area. So that with release 23, you know, it's really an extension of all the enhancements to the tools. Like logic extensions got a lot more. Workflow modeler got more. You could even create a new workflow now and release in tools 9270 and 9271, which is the current tools release. But you know, the workflow modeler, for example, in the Orchestrator Studio allows you to create a new workflow and include an orchestration in that workflow. So between that and then enhancements into the web OMW to be able to create data structures using the web, you don't have to, you can create a workflow from scratch and use the data structure, building a data structure using the web P98220W, web OMW, and then orchestration. So then, like a traditional workflow where you would have to, you go through the approval and you'd call a business function to update the fields or the tables and perform an action, you can do that with an orchestration. So now you can do a workflow, for example, completely from scratch using the web only. More and more is happening, more and more direction in JDE and release 23 and into the future to reduce the dependency on the old Windows client, the FAT client. In fact, I think about where they're at right now with 9271 is that the only thing you really need a FAT client for is to develop and build your own applications using the report design aid or the application design aid. So the rest can all be done using the web. Other features that are important, I think the password self-service reset is a great feature. Our users can reset their passwords on their own. Other features that are coming in, and I'm going to go into a little more depth in each one of these. Enhancements to logic extensions, aggregation support, and arrays to be accepted as inputs into orchestrations and logic extensions, and just more. So this is an example of this is an example of a orchestration embedded in a workflow. So this is your workflow. This example workflow was an address change workflow, right? And so you can see now a new activity, a new action in the palette is an orchestration. So this one in particularly starts by getting inputs, and the overall workflow in the overall application and workflow is to accept inputs from this orchestration that launches this workflow on the screen. The changes for an updating of the supplier address number, they get approved. And once they're approved, it launches these orchestrations to do two things: to actually update the address book in JDE and to notify and launch an orchestration that's a notification to notify users that the supplier address book has changed and has been approved and is invoked. So these are new. This orchestration into the workflow is a new feature in release 23. And again, as I talked about, it kind of completes the cycle of being able to build a workflow and do workflows within JD Edwards Orchestrator Studio or the actual workflow studio. So every so often I like to stop and see if there's any Q&A or chat comments, questions. I don't see anything yet. All right, so I'm going to continue on. So the another feature in here is starting a workflow process from a logic extension. So that example of that workflow process that we just looked at in JDE in the Workflow Studio can be invoked from a logic extension. And now the extensibility has been enhanced to start a workflow process from within the logic extension. And then this to go along to complete the whole cycle here, you don't even have to create an orchestration to launch this logic extension or workflow because they've enhanced the user interface to allow logic extensions to be added into an E1 form or an E1 page without having to convert it into an orchestration. It's not a big thing, but it is a step saver in the overall process. So that orchestration, that workflow that we just looked at, here is that workflow embedded in a logic extension. So the logic extension is an example of the new enhancements to JDE Orchestrator to do calculations and what ifs and table IOs and loops. And I'll talk about some other features, but this one happens to be adding the workflow into that logic extension. So the logic extension invoked from, for example, the supplier master will just start the workflow process to change the address. So that people input you put that on, launch this on the JDE application, supplier master P0313. I believe that's the supplier master. When you change the address, pops up a screen for input for different fields, and then launches into the workflow process to approve that those changes. And once the changes are done, it will update the address book using the orchestrator that's in the workflow. So as I just talked about, that can be launched directly from a form extension, and it simplifies, the development management of UDOs when a logic extension called from the form extension, right? There's other enhancements in here that I'll be going into. Data set processing for logic extensions. So extensions can accept arrays as inputs and return arrays, and it can build arrays. Logic extensions include aggregation support to aggregate and do analytics. They've even got functions built in, summarization, divisions. Actual analytic type functions built into the orchestrator. So, do an average or a top 10 after it queries through the data in JDE. So this is an example of that little flow that I just talked about. So the form extension innovation, so in JDE and form extensions, I added a button here that said update mailing address. This is the address book revision for a supplier. When the user clicks on that button that's added in here, it launches into a logic extension. This is the update mailing address logic extension that we just looked at. Once the button is clicked, it allows the users to input fields, right? So here's the fields that it allows for input, changing the name, address, city, state, zip. And when they click OK, it will launch this orchestration with the files with that data as input. Not this one. I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. It'll launch the orchestration, the form extension that we added, which starts the address change workflow. That workflow then routes to the approver who's been defined by the workflow. And once the workflow is completed, it will actually call an update to orchestration that updates the address book with the new address, name, address, city, state, zip, whatever was changed. And then also, as you saw in there, launch a second orchestration that's a notification to let users know, whoever it needs to be known, that an address for a supplier has been changed. So that's, kind of walking through the little flow of that one. Enhancements put together in an assembly workflow that has orchestration calls to complete the data updating, logic extension to call the workflow, and then third piece is enhancements to the user interface to allow the user interface to call a logic extension, not just an orchestration and or a notification. So some of the other enhancements that I pointed out there, files as inputs to orchestrations, and files as inputs to an orchestration from an E1 page. So using Page Composer, you add the orchestration to the page, and the user launches the page. So this is an example of using a file as an input. So this orchestration will start. Once it starts, you drag and drop the CSV files or files into the orchestration. The orchestration will check that if it has a valid data in the file, it will then do a function to parse the data, the CSV files information out into inputs for the sales order entry. That'll create sales orders from the files that you've added and dragged and dropped onto the E1 page. So this is an example of a couple of those on the page. There's a create a sales order from a CSV, the thing we're just talking about right now. And when I go in here, you drag and drop, right from within the E1 page, the file. So I've got one already here called SO detail CSV, drag and drop a second file in there, CSV file, and the orchestration will run and create sales orders from that drag and drop. So that's, I think this one, when they first allowed this drag and drop into orchestration, I couldn't wait for it to be made available to put those orchestrations on a E1 page where users can go ahead and update and drag and drop those files in. So a lot of time saving, a lot of, automating the processes where a user today might get a spreadsheet in from a customer, and then they have to, either rekey it into JDE or get a JDE format in to enter the sold to, the item number and quantities and other information. So it streamlines the processes and a lot less work for users. I think I did this one not long ago as a live demo presentation to show you this. There's too many features in here today to kind of get it in within a 40-minute presentation time frame to actually show you all of these features, but we can get into some and show them to you working. Very cool stuff, and enhancements made possible by the tools Release 23 is based on. Again, 9270, 9271, and I think 9272 will be coming out if it isn't out already with new enhancements. I don't know what they are yet, but we'll find out. So I think another big one for users is the self-service password reset. So the way it works is you got a little bit of configuration to do within the server manager for JDE, and the user can then click on the reset password link that's on their login page, right? Once they do that, an email is sent with the link to reset their password. This is the kind of out of the box link to reset that password, right? So then they get and click that link. When they click the link, it finishes and then lets the user know that your password has been reset. So these are kind of the screen. You click on the reset password. It asks you you click on the link. And then you can update using the update link. You can enter the new password and confirm it. So following your password requirements for how long and what kind of characters are required and that sort of thing. So password reset, I think, is a nice, and that one just came out in the release 23 tools as well. Okay, aggregation support and being able to build and work with arrays in logical extension is another enhancement from in the tools for release 23. So as you can see here, a new option in the diagram palette is to click on an array function. So this aggregation function is also new out here. So as the application aggregates and works through the data. So this is looking at your sales orders at 4211, and it's doing a count and building and aggregating all the count of the units ordered within JDE. So then it is doing a halving summarization in summarizing, looking at over, these are secondary quantity over 1,000. Once it loops through that, then it uses an array function to append the aggregation as a row into an array in JDE in the logical extension. So there's two features being pointed out in this diagram. Logical extension. Logical extension starts, it runs through the F4211 for each row matching the criteria. A sales order type, it'll do a count and accumulate the account, and then build an array of, this is the item number, this is the quantity. So this aggregation logical extension will come back and give you the information, of the total order, quantity of items ordered by item number. So this is the array function that we're just looking at. It's appending the row into this detail. This is the clicking on the append row detail in it. So it's building an array of all of the items as it counts and goes on through your sales orders, your F4211, the sales order detail files. And then when it's done, you can see the output of it. Here is the output of all the items that it searched on through. That's the order list. And then there's an output. That's the order, the array, and the output can be displayed in a table format. So this is a logical extension looped through all of the sales orders, created an array of the items, the product name with the number of orders, and then total order quantity of it. It's even sorted and higher order largest to smallest numbers within the array just based on the running of that logical extension. So good usable functionality. If you put that as a button on a page or whatever, and a user can quickly click on it and see, okay, these are the total order. So these are my top ordered items, to maybe suggest to the customer on the phone. I see a Q&A. Let me see what the Q&A is. So Grant asked, password reset. Is there a way to validate the password for the account being reset is requested by the account owner? First of all, they're going to have to request it, right? The link is going to use your address book as the account owner, if you will. In other words, I'm Bud Shaw. My login is BS, and my address book, Who's Who record, has my email in it. So does the password reset work using Azure single sign-on? No, you'll just use single sign-on for that. Sorry about that one. It doesn't. An anonymous attendee asked that question. All right, so other new features we started talking about, and that's the one we were looking at, is being able to build arrays in logical extensions. So a new icon, there's the data dictionary and then the Boolean. So data dictionary is where you add your inputs and your variables, your fields into the logical extension. And now there's a new capability to define and populate an array. We kind of looked at the order aggregation feeding into the array as we look at it. So you can see here, as I started building arrays in this logical extension, there's two arrays here. There's one called item list. We define it as an array, and it's input, right? As it reads through all of the items, comes out with the cost and the unit price, and then calculates a margin for those items, and that margin is then put in. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to click on that one. That array, next array, is an output array, right, which stores the values that it calculated for margin. So the reading the item number, getting the unit cost and the unit price, does the calculation, says what the profit margin is, and then builds an array of the profit with the profit margin for output out of the logical extension. So this is the new array function is added in there to then work with those arrays, as I pointed out a little bit earlier there, looking at it. This is the array, and while the item, you're reading through the item list and the count, doing a counter, gets an array array in a row, calculates the margin, and then appends that row to the margin list, and it increments the counter for every order that it hits. So this is the array function, where it's actually showing you to append in the array. So here is the example of that one. So we put in 3 item numbers in our query, item number 1, 2, and 3. It comes out with a unit cost, unit price, and then updates the profit margin array with a profit margin for each and every one of those items in there. So this was meant to be a summary of the features in release 23. It's not an all-encompassing list, but it is a pretty good summary of a lot of things that you can take advantage of in the release 23 tools. I'm happy to share this. Of course, this is a recording that Maddie has done, and she'll put it out on the website for you, but I'm happy to share the PowerPoint with you if you're interested in it, by just connecting with us. So Maddie, I'll turn it back to you to take over from here.
Thank you so much. I'm going to get everything set up. Okay, perfect.
I'm going to stop sharing. Hang on a second.
No worries.
There we go. Okay, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Let me know, Bud, if you can see my screen.
I can.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, Bud, for giving an amazing presentation. It is back to me speaking, Maddie, just in case anyone, confuses me for Bud. But thank you, Bud. That was an amazing presentation. I want to go over a few things before we jump into the question and answer part of our webcast. Just so you guys know, if you guys do have any further questions, please put them in the Q&A below in your dashboard. But I did want to let you guys know that we have some educational resources to go over before we jump into our Q&A. And I want to let you guys, we do webcasts each month that vary. We also have newsletters, YouTube videos that we post. Like, we'll record this webcast and edit it and then post it on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and look at it. We also have live events and workshops that we talk about on our website. If you want to join an event that we have coming up next month, it's our J.D. Edwards Orchestrator workshop. And you can go ahead and register for that by going to our website and clicking our resources tabs, and it'll have all of our events linked. You just have to click the J.D. Edwards and go under webcast and register there. Again, if you guys want to keep up with events, we post them on our LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube channel, Twitter channel, and Instagram. So little promotional videos will be on YouTube, and we'll post those on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram as well. So without further ado, I also did want to let you guys know in the chat box right now, not the Q&A, but in the chat box, there is a survey. And if you've stayed for the entire webcast so far, and you complete the survey, you will be put into a raffle to win a $25 gift card. So I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to fill out the survey, and then we'll jump into the Q&A section. But who doesn't love a $25 Amazon gift card? So I'll give you guys a second to go ahead and do that. And the link is in the chat. So I'm not seeing anyone say they can't find it, but if you can't find it, let me know. And also, if the link isn't working for you now, just in case, it will be sent to you at the end of the webcast in our follow-up email. So don't rush or anything. It's okay. But I'm also giving you guys time to write in those questions if you have them. I'm not seeing any other questions in our Q&A. I know that, Bud, you did answer the grant question, I do believe. If that's correct, the password reset one, Bud.
Yeah, I'm typing that one in now just so
you're typing it in?
Yeah, we have a documentation of it. So I did speak to it, but I thought I would type it up.
Perfect. Even better.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Okay.
Seems to be no questions. And again, if you guys do want to contact Bud, his email is at the bottom of our presentation slide here, and it will be in the follow-up email as long as you guys look out for it, as well as the link for the survey. And we will be contacting the survey winner for the $25 Amazon gift card in the next few days. So look out for that. But if you have any other questions that come up, please reach out to Bud, and we really appreciate you guys joining us today. We hope you guys enjoyed, and be sure to register for future events as well. So without further ado, Bud, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just if you do want to see any of these features live, reach out to me, and we can walk through a live presentation and how I built them and how they work. So happy to help.
Thanks, Bud. Well, all right, everyone. I see no other questions. So have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys again soon.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.